All right, fantastic. Can you see?
Yes, and I just hit record, so we are all set to go for developing products and services that sell with the Mack Institute. Miss Philisha Mack, take it away.
Right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, Maven, thanks again for having me on this platform. I've expressed my joy for being able to serve. So this evening, we have a lot of content to go through, and I'm really excited because this is one of the topics that I really enjoy talking about and teaching on the most, and that is, again, developing products and services that sell. And so tonight I kind of want to take a step back, right? I want to take a step back, and I want you, it doesn't matter if you have a product or you have services that you have already marketed, or if you are in this space where it's like maybe you want to add some different dimensions to what you're doing online or off, but I want you to look at the information that I'm going to present with a clear mind. And I say that because we all have, I'm guilty of it myself, our own thought process of what it truly looks like to bring a product from idea to conversion, and then, of course, to monetization. And so I want to kind of deep dive into how are you going to launch a profitable product to your ideal client? And so we're going to spend some time in diving into what does your ideal client really look like, and how is that in alignment with your products or your services that you have that you're looking to bring into the marketplace. The other thing that I want to make sure is I want to make sure that you fully understand the launch process or the launch cycle. Now, this can look a little bit different based upon what you're bringing to market, but all in all, it's a pretty standard process. I'm going to go over that as well, and then we're going to talk about what I know everybody is here for, which is mega sales, the Maven marketing system, right? So we're going to talk about how do you take your idea and actually make some cash, some moolah from it. We're going to talk about that as well. And then, of course, we have to talk about what are the vehicles or the systems that you're going to utilize when you are positioning your products and your services into the marketplace. So I'm going to give a lot of information. If you have questions, I'm in full screen mode, so I can't really view the chat box. But if you have any questions, just kind of unmute yourself and chime in at any time. Again, I want this to be very informal and conversational as well. So if you have any questions, just chime in, and I'm happy to answer. So hopefully you have your slides printed out in front of you, because I'm definitely going to have you to do a couple of different tasks as we go through the content, so that you can just make this really real in your business, right? So it's one thing to sit and listen to information, but it's a whole nother to apply it to what you're doing. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to walk away with understanding and the knowledge to bring your product to the market and to monetize from it. Okay, so something that's really, really important is before you think launch, I want you to focus on your ideal client. And the reason why I want you to focus on your ideal client is because if you're anything like most people, we have things that we love. We may love hair products, so we want to start a product line, for our specific hair type. We may love clothing, so we want to start a boutique. Like, we all love different things. And so but the question is, the individuals that you are marketing to, do they need the product and or the service that you are launching, right? And that's such a cliche, like, okay, yeah, people need it, but do they really need it? And is there something already out there that they can get at a lower price, right? That they can get from different avenues? Like, why should they purchase yours? So anytime you are even writing ideas about your products and your services and things that you want, you should always look at the bigger picture. It's not to discourage you. It's not to say, oh, well, I want to market hair products, but of course there's a million hair products, so I'm not going to do it. No, what you have to do is get creative and say, how can I develop a niche product that is not already in the marketplace? Or how can I take the information from, let's say, the hair care products that's already in the marketplace, and then how can I improve upon that? Or how can I make sure that my product has something that those products don't, right? Whether it is anti-humidity, protection, or whether it is something for natural hair or what have you. But you have to find how what you're doing is very different and is stands out from what is already in the marketplace. And you have to be able to articulate that. All right. So it's one thing to say, oh, well, I know my product is thebomb.com. It's great because of this. It's great because of that. Well, really? It's great because of what? You know what I mean? So you have to be very, very specific. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well, in how your product is unique. All right. And this is also called your unique selling proposition. All right. So let's hang out here with the buyer's persona just for a little bit. So when you really think about a buyer's persona, this truly is, it goes back to the avatar we all know about, the client avatar. But the persona is looking at your ideal client as if she or he is a walking individual, like naming your ideal client, knowing, where do they work? What do they do for fun? What is their income? How do they show up when they are shopping? Like, are they usually shoppers that go on the weekend? Are they usually shoppers that kind of window shop and then they take a longer time to make that decision before they purchase? So all of that comes into play when you're thinking about your buyer's persona. And it also comes into play in the way that you position your content to sell to the buyer, because you could have two products that are exactly the same, but one is selling and one isn't. It's really because of that connection that you're able to gravitate, and some other things that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I want you to keep that in mind as we progress through the content, because I feel like a lot of times, especially if you are marketing online, a lot of times what happens is there's so much noise. Right? Everybody is saying their stuff is great. Everybody is doing this. Everyone is doing that. And it's like a game to stand out, right? And so when you're thinking about that, you will get to a point where you're so specific with with the way that you're saying things and the way that you're marketing things, that the person that you intend to hear your message will hear it. I was doing a talk the other day, actually last week, to a group, and I said, someone said, well, I market on Facebook. I do a lot on Facebook. I'm whatever. And I said, that's fantastic. I said, but you want to think about social media and your ideal client like you're walking into a mall. Right? So like when you're walking into a mall, there's, hundreds or, of stores, right? There's a lot of stores in a mall. And so what happens is everyone is walking in the mall. They may be going in and out of stores. They may be just window shopping, whatever the case may be. But when you think about your product launch and when you think about developing your product, you want to think, how can I take that person walking in the mall, right, which is the same as people just hanging out on social media, and how can I move them to pass by my store and come in the door? How can I move them to go on my Facebook page and click through to my product page? It's the same thing. And so when you think about your products, and even if you're marketing and you're launching solely online, you still have to think with a brick and mortar attitude and mindset. Okay, so I hope that you guys caught that, because that's really, really big. And I feel like that's one of the core mistakes that a lot of people make, is they try to get everyone in versus just that specific individual that needs their products or their services. So when you're thinking about your buyer's persona, you want to ask yourself, in thinking about what I just stated, what are the challenges that they have? And then how is your product or your service going to play a part into that, right? Like, is your product going to help me overcome lose weight? How is your product going to help my skin? How is your product going to make me feel if I put it on? Those are the kind of things that you really want to think about. And then you also want to think about how is it going to assist them, and you want to speak to those points. So you don't want to just say, well, this product will assist you by clearing your skin in 10 days. You want to let them know, you want to tie in some emotions to that, right? You want to say, you want to talk about their suffering. When they look in the mirror, they may have low self-esteem, or they may have, they may not be able to go to specific events or take pictures or show up, or whatever the case may be based upon what you're selling. But you want to go really, really deep with that so that they can say, oh, wow, that is me. I do feel a lack of self-esteem. And if using your product is going to clear my skin, and then I'm going to have new esteem, then it's really not a question of the price. It's just a question of, where do I pay? How do I sign up, right? So you really have to take it there to make sure that they really have that personal buy-in for why they want to purchase your product or your service. And then you also want to make sure that the route that you're going is in alignment with your niche. This is so, so important. I want you to put a star by that, circle it, highlight it, do whatever you got to do. Because what happens is, we, especially as entrepreneurs that are service-based, right? We see something that is, I don't want to say a fad, but we see something where other people are monetizing it. So sometimes, we want to go to the new shiny thing, right? We want to try something else, but it may be way left from what we've been doing, right? So I want to encourage you that as you are developing your brand and your business, and as you are getting ready to launch products and develop products, to make sure that you are staying true to your brand, and that you are on brand whenever you're doing it. And the reason why is because you can have what's called audience confusion, which is like they don't know what you're doing. Right? And it's not to say that you can't be creative in what you're doing, that you can't talk about other things that you love, but you have to keep your main thing, right? And so I want you to really, really keep that in mind. So when someone comes and says, hey, do you want to join my network marketing? Do you want to sell tea? Do you want to do all this stuff? That you kind of have a second thought if you know that your brand is more aligned in something different. Okay? Very, very important. So all in all, just make it your business to understand the needs and goals of your client. Before you even launch your product, you should spend a lot of time, especially if you're just starting, you should really spend a lot of time researching what I've talked about on this slide. Just the psychographics of your client, like what they love, etc. So you should really spend a lot of time doing that. And this is even if you've been in business for a long time and now you want to add something different, you want to expand your services or your products, you should always start at the point of research. And so, what happens when you have your product, you have your product idea, and you're like, okay, how can I, on a shoestring budget, how can I get my product out to those who need it, right? That's like the $1 million question. Like, how can I market without, breaking the bank? So there's 5 different things that I live by and that I coach my clients to do as well. And I'm going to share them with you. And they're listed here. So the first is opinion leaders. Like, I don't really hear a lot of people talking about this, but when you look at, major brands, when you look at individuals that individuals that are speakers, that are authors, that are coaches, they are very, very particular about having different opinion leaders, different individuals on their platform to assist them in marketing their products and their services. One of the greatest things that is absolutely for free, I'll give you guys this tip that is very effective, is with the YouTube community, right? So I'll share a quick story with you. Let me take a drink. So just a quick story. So one of my clients, she actually just launched a planner, and she's a lawyer. And one of the things that we did was we didn't spend hardly any money on ads, on anything. What we did was we sent her planner to 50 of the top YouTubers online and just simply had them to review it. Sent them several copies, had them review it, and we saw phenomenal results. And I want to share this with you guys because it's important that we leverage communities. It's important that we also leverage other opinion leaders, which is what point one is about. And so don't be afraid to reach out to bloggers, to reach out to people on Instagram, have them review your products, YouTubers, have them review your products. Sometimes they'll charge you, but it may be worth that fee, right? So that is a great way as you're working through your launch and your product, even your product development to get buy-in, but your launch specifically is to get those opinion leaders, but get them on board early. So don't say, hey, my product is launching in June, and then May 30th, you're trying to send emails for people. No, this is something you want to do months and months in advance, right? And so just make sure that you have your launch calendar in front of you so that you can really plan and make sure that you get the necessary KOLs or key opinion leaders on board early. The next is press release. I don't want to say press releases are dead. However, I just feel like a lot of people don't utilize them like they used to because, of course, we have social media, right? But press releases are still very, very important, especially if you are, planning to launch your product at an event, or even if you're launching your product at an online event. Press releases are still very important. Now, I will say this. If you are not a writer, this is not something you would just want to write yourself, right? Like, you definitely would want to have a really nice press release written for your business before you send it out to your opinion leaders, media, etc. And so really quickly, I want to give you 6 key things that you want to look for when you either have someone else write your press release to make sure it's bomb.com, or if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to take the plunge, I'm going to just try to write it myself. The first thing that every good press release should have is a good headline. Right? So what happens is you have your press release written, and then you have a list of media individuals that you're sending it out, press, etc. Right? The first thing that they do, because of course they're getting press releases all day emailed to them and sent over. So the first thing that they do is they look at the headline on the press release. All right? And so if that headline is blah, trust and believe, they're going to move on. They're going to say next and just keep it moving. Right? So make sure that your headline grabs attention. Also, make sure that you have what's called a date line on your press release, which basically is just stating, the dates and the particulars surrounding, let's say your launch event, even if it's online, guys, or your live event that you may be launching your product or your service at. So that's the second. The third is your intro, right? Your first paragraph should have the basic answers to your who, your what, and your where. Your who, your what, and your where. What are you launching? Where are you launching, right? Who is this product for? Who is this event for? You want to be very, very crystal clear on those points, because that is going to say, okay, that's going to tell the media outlet, okay, great, this is our target demographic. This is our audience would like this. And so they may jump on board and come to your event. So that's also important. And then the body just basically is after that intro, and it basically just explains, further explains the who, the what, and the where. So it's just more detailed information. That's it. And then, of course, you want to have your contact information on your releases. I have seen a lot of releases as of late, there's not a lot of contact information on it. So make sure, even if it's in an email or you're having somebody send it out, like, make sure the contact information is inside of that press release. Very important. And then the third point is to build your message, but don't marry it. And what I mean by that is, as you're developing your products and your services and you're getting ready to launch, you may have done everything that we talked about in the other slides, right? You may have this amazing message of, who your ideal client is, what problem it's solving. But then you may, through doing some other things that we're going to talk about in a later slide, you may say, you know what, something is not connecting. Maybe you talk to some people that you respect and they were like, I don't know, you might need to switch this or switch that. So be a little lenient and don't be afraid to change your message, even if it feels like it's in a later stage of your development of your launch. And then that comes to our fourth point here, which is beta testing, right? You want to make sure that you are testing your products and services before you put it out there to the market, right? And just a couple of points about this. Community is everything. That's why I love the Maven Network, because community truly is everything, right? So you want to make sure that as you are beta testing, that you have your products and your services with the right community to do that. One of the greatest ways to do that is with, if you have a really solid Facebook group, it's fantastic to do that with. There's some other LinkedIn groups that are really, really great that with beta testing, but you want to make sure, again, that, these are individuals that they understand what you're doing and that you spell it out for them as well, so that they can give you good feedback. And you also want to make sure that it's individuals that will be honest with you. You know what I mean? Not just tell you, oh, it's great, it's great, it's great, when they know a lot is wrong with what you're putting out, right? Or in their opinion. So just make sure that you have trusted testers and make sure it's definitely in the right community. Those are all very important parts of beta testing. You also want to make sure that you give yourself enough time, right? So this is why, again, that product launch timeline is so, so important. But yeah, you want to give yourself enough time for your testing. So you definitely want to make sure that you do that months in advance of when you plan to do your hard launch to the marketplace. And then you want to always build creative assets. Like I talked about this before, but you want to make sure that when you're launching, that you focus on the assets that individuals want and that they need based on your research, going back to what we talked about earlier. But you want to make sure that your assets are put out in the marketplace in a creative way. There's a million ways to say that my skincare line will help you clear up your skin. You know what I'm saying? And there's a million ways to put that out, with graphics, with video, obviously with text. So there's a lot of different creative ways that you can do it to get people's attention. And so you have to know your audience and you have to know what they like. Some individuals, they have audiences, especially in the online space, where they don't really like video unless it's live. Like they see a huge decrease in their numbers when they go live versus when they don't go live on like Facebook, etc. So you really have to know who, know your market, know your clients, know how they actually take in information and what they are more inclined to do. Okay. And I'll say this, when thinking about this and thinking about these 5 points, I don't want you to get caught up in like, likes on Facebook, likes, sharing and views and all that stuff on Instagram, even Periscope. I don't want you to get caught up to that, because there's a lot of individuals that have 1 million likes, but they are not monetizing their business. There's people that will look at your content, will look at the way that you're putting out things. They may not even click on your stuff, but they'll go directly to the link and purchase whatever it is that you're buying. So I say that to say, I think a lot of people, they have this idea where it's like, again, it's that shiny thing, right? Now, social proof is important. Don't get me wrong. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But I'm just saying, don't get caught up on that. Focus on your conversion, and your conversion is not measured by your likes and your shares and all that stuff. All right, that's separate from social proof. So, but I wanted to mention that before I forgot. All right, so this is kind of the easiest way that I can kind of explain just a very easy launch that I think will work across the board, regardless of what, if you have a product or a service that you're launching, or if you have a new business venture that you're launching, even kind of how to do this, right? So as you guys can see, and I hope you have this printed, but we have really four phases, right? So the first phase is your early adapter phase. And this phase is important because, again, we talked about your launch timeline, and if I had more time, I would go into that, but that's a whole, separate thing. But when you establish your launch timeline, you really want to make sure that you're setting specific goals for them, and that you are also, breaking those goals down. So this is a great way to look at it. Plain vision, simple, so that you can see it. So the first thing that you want to do, and I have Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, but these can be weeks, these can be months, these can, you know what I mean? You can set this up however it is for your launch. I just did this for purposes so you could see it. But each of these phases could, like, you could say, hey, I'm gonna plan my launch in 8 weeks or in 12 weeks, whatever. And you would just adapt these numbers accordingly, okay? So this is just like an example. So your early adapter, I want you to focus on your idea at this point. So meaning, let's say, again, going back to the example that I use about the skincare products, right? So your idea screen would be, a new skincare serum, let's say, a moisturizer, whatever, right? But that's your idea screen that will assist individuals to clear acne on their face. Right, so that would be like the early adapter, the early goal that you're setting in this phase. Then the second metric in here in Q1 would be your concept creation. So what is it going to look like? In your mind, just through your vision, what does that look like for you to have that serum? What does that look like for you to have that moisturizer? What color scheme, when you close your eyes and you visualize it, like what colors do you see? You know what I mean? So now we're going from idea creation to your vision to bringing it to life, but we're still in this early phase because right now you're just getting all of your ideas and everything together. So I really want you to think about your phase one as the early phase of your product development and your product launch, okay? The early phase. And of course, this is dependent upon what you're launching. I mean, if you're launching a product, it may look different than a service. You know what I mean? Your product may be a little more detailed, whereas your service is, that you're going to, coach someone or something like that, right? So that's the early adapter. The second phase is still in the early phase, but what you're focusing on here is you're really focusing on the business. So based upon the first stage, who actually needs this product? Like, is it just an idea that you have that is great, or is it someone in the marketplace that needs this? Is the product already there? And if it is there, how is your product different? So it's really looking at, how effective is your idea to actually launch in the market with your ideal clients or the market that you're trying to go into, right? Because sometimes what happens is when we're here at Q1 and we have our ideas and we can visualize it and, we got this idea while we were working out, whatever, it may be all good. But then when you start thinking about, okay, is this actually a feasible business venture that, makes sense, I can monetize from it, or, whatever your goal is, then it becomes a different conversation, or it can really, really fast, right? Or you may say, wow, I have an idea to, have my own skincare line, but then you may get to the business and part, which is Q2, and you may start looking at those numbers like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that financial commitment. You know what I mean? I know some of us has probably been there. So you may have to scale it back, or you may have to go back and change something that you had in Q1, and it's okay. It's okay, but it's when you skip from Q1 to Q3 and you don't do that, that you can kind of find yourself spending a lot of time, a lot of money doing things, and just to see by the time you get to Q4, like, what was I thinking? Why am I doing this? And then you have to start back over. So that's why these phases are really, really important, because it truly allows you to see your launch through from the beginning to the end. All right. So that's Q2, is really having your business case develop. And then also looking at product development. Or what does it, how many individuals do you need on your team if you have 100 people that purchase your product or your service, right? Because sometimes we think about our products and we think about what we want to do in product development and product launch, but we don't necessarily think about how to sustain it once we launch it. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to have a sold out products, but can we fulfill it on the back end? Are we able to ship out 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 skincare serums? You know what I'm saying? Or are we able, we're saying that we want to coach full coaching practice with our services, but if we have 500 people, are we able to fulfill what they desire on the back end of our business? So that's why these phases are just everything. So that's the second. Now, the third is testing and validation. That's where it comes in, where I talked about your beta testing and, things of that nature. So now that you have your business case, now that you have the product, let's go ahead and have some individuals test it. Let's go ahead and put some individuals through our services, or let them try out the products. Maybe it breaks. Maybe the pump on the skincare serum doesn't work so well, and you need to go back and kind of tighten some things up. Or maybe if you have t-shirts, maybe you're finding that people who utilize your t-shirts, that when they wash it in their detergent, it shrinks, or whatever the case is. But having multiple individuals do that and going through these phases, it's going to allow you to test it and catch that before having 1,000 people do it, right? And it's going to save you a lot of money, because you don't want people obviously going online talking about your stuff and you also don't want on the back end to not be able to deliver what you're promising, because of course that's your brand, right? So very important. So then Q4, the last part is, after you've launched it in the marketplace, it's really saying, what happens after product launch, right? You've launched a product, you now have individuals that are utilizing your products and your services. So it's like, okay, what do I do now? This is the part that is probably just as important as Q1, right? Because what happens is, a lot of people, they don't do anything post-launch. Like, they don't follow up. The press releases are all out. The media buzz is all out. All of their ads are probably done. But what are you doing post-launch? And this is the strategy that sets individuals apart from creating a sustainable business from their products and their services, versus just launching something, selling 50 items, and then they don't sell anything anymore. It's that post-launch. And I'll tell you, earlier I talked to you guys about your systems, that and your sales funnel. That's where this is everything. That's where your content is everything. And that's where your systems in your business is so important. That's the difference between having a $5,000 launch and a $25,000 or more launch, right? Is making sure that you have your post-launch tight. All right. So very, very important. So do I have any questions about any of these phases? Do you have any questions about maybe where you are with one of these phases, or anything above? You can unmute yourself and ask your question if you have one.
I don't. I think something that even I need to get better at is the post-launch. Mm-hmm. Because we spend all of this energy in preparation and creating, developing, preparing, marketing, doing the actual thing, event or selling, whatever it is. And then you find that after, like, your energy, you're like exhausted. So one thing that I've worked on this year is getting that post-launch content, or whatever it needs to be, created beforehand.
Yeah.
because it's just not going to happen after the big thing. Like, you just want to go sit down. You don't want to do that. So that's one thing I've had to move to the beginning is, as you're creating all these different things, create the post-launch information before you need it. Because after the big event, your brain wants to be done. And so if you don't already have that created and scheduled in your email marketing systems or whatever you're using, it's 9 times out of 10, it's just not going to happen.
So true. So true. Yeah. It's so important. And, it's like you have, great ideas. You have the perfect product. You have the perfect services, but understanding that, let's say you have a client life cycle of 3 months, I don't know, 6 months, whatever. Like, what happens after that? How are you going to get people back in the funnel and things of that nature? So it's really, really detailed, and it's very important for a sustainable business, especially now how, social media is, right? It's very important.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other questions? We're good? Okay.
She's good.
Alrighty.
She's just smiling. That big smile.
I know I can't see your face because I'm like, okay, so here's some ideas that I wanted to put on the slide to basically encourage you, really, to encourage you to take one idea, one product, or one service, and to find other ways to utilize that for impact and also to monetize, right? And one of the greatest ways to do that, and one of the most effective, is to turn your product launch into an event, right? So you can look at this 2 ways. The first way you can look at this is you have a product, and you want to launch it. And instead of just launching it online, or in addition to launching it online, have an event where you launch it. Of course, this works great for books, but even outside of that, it works with anything, with a service, with a product, with whatever. You can always turn it into an event for impact, right? And then you're going to invite who? Influencers, of course. Invite some influencers there. Invite some bloggers there. Anyone that can get your information out, you want them in the place. And I promise you, like, I did not realize how easy it is to invite people to your event. And I'm saying, it's not like you want random people or anything like that, but no, do your research. Bloggers are looking for events to feature on their blogs. And even if they don't have a huge following or a huge, blog, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you want, the feature, but you want the SEO. Like, you want people to search for your products, and you want their blog to help feed all of that momentum to have people have your product pop up on Google. So it's much, much deeper. That's like a super VIP tip, right? It's much, much deeper than you just saying, hey, I want to invite someone so I can look cool and have a blogger at my event. No, I want someone to write about my event, write about my product, or review my product or my service, so that I can have, for SEO as well. I mean, really, really big deal, especially if they have a blog with a lot of traffic. Same thing with magazines, digital magazines and things of that nature. Same thing, right? So invite influencers. A live demo, there's nothing like on-the-spot social proof of what your product or service, does, right? Testimonials obviously are great. Written or video testimonials are great. Anytime you can create social media impact, or, do a contest or anything that further is going to promote your product or your service, definitely do that. But my point here really is that it doesn't necessarily take a huge budget to get the impact that you want. It just takes you being creative, you really planning, taking time to plan. You should have at least 4 weeks of planning minimally on your strategy for your launch, for your product or for your service, minimally, right? Usually it's 6, but 4 is good. So you want to take your time and plan so that you have time to send out the letters and do all the invites and do all of this stuff as well. All right. So planning is different than putting it out there. I'm not saying put it out there 6 months in advance, but I'm saying behind the scenes, you should be planning. All right. And then, pre-order heaven. Here's the thing, right? If you have a book, a product, whatever you have, I believe in pre-ordering. I really do, especially obviously for my authors, but I really believe in pre-ordering and creating the hype and the buzz and giving individuals discounts and stuff like that, as well. And the one of the brands that I just like study how they do this is Apple. That iPhone pre-order, the whole 9, they open it, even music now with getting albums on certain, like on Tidal or on iTunes first or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's like feeling exclusive. And if you can tie this into your community, is gold. So if you can tie in pre-order heaven into your community, meaning giving them exclusive access to something before everyone else, because you have that relationship, it's everything. So don't sleep on pre-order on your products, even your services, having it open up to other people as well is very, very important as well. And then setting ambitious but realistic goals. Listen, I'm very ambitious, right? But I'm also a realist. And I think it's really important when you're launching a product, you're launching a service, to understand what your goals are, and to be very, very strategic and specific about that. And don't be shy about it. Don't be shy that you want to have an income goal of this, or that you want to create this type of impact or whatever. Don't be shy about that, and understand that whatever that looks like for you, that you're worthy of those goals. Because sometimes we can see other individuals doing this, doing that, and we're like, wow. And it's like we look at something as if it's not, we can't attain it, but you can, right? And so I just want to say that, because your launch can be as big as you desire it to be, and it doesn't have to be $1 gazillion for it to do that. You just have to be creative, and you have to sit down and really, really plan it out, and be very meticulous in who you are working with, who you're aligning yourself with, and all of that good stuff that we just talked about. But be ambitious, for sure. Be ambitious about your product development, your services, your launch, and the goals that you are setting for that. However, I want you to be realistic. So I say that to say, don't necessarily put the pressure on yourself. If you haven't done, let's say your goal is like, wow, I would love to have, a $5,000 launch or something like that. Like, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to hit the number if you have never hit $1,000 launch. Like, start small. So, say, okay, I'm going to, work my plan, do some strategic planning, and my goal is going to be $1,000 or $2,000, and then hit that. And then maybe you can have a different type of launch, or a different, kind of spin off of what you're doing or whatever, to do that. Or maybe you can hit that number on the post launch, right? But I'm just saying, so just know that when you're pre-launch, or when you're initially launching, that's not the end all be all. Like, you still have different sales, unless you're just trying to say, go hard for 30 days and make this or do this. I mean, that's a whole different thing, right? But overall, throughout the life cycle of your product launch or your overall development, give yourself a little bit of leeway, and just be realistic, but be ambitious about your goals. Okay. So with that being said, the easiest and the quickest way to do that is to have the right systems in place. We talked about it earlier, the right marketing and sales systems, and making sure that you really know what your numbers are. How many items or, services or whatever that you're selling. So make sure you know that, but also make sure that you automate as much as you can, because the worst thing is for someone to come through your sales funnel and for them to get stuck at a certain point, and then they drop off. Like you just lost how much, ever dollar your one individual is. So you got to make sure that your systems and that your content development is tight. And I'll tell you, you have to spend money on it. You have to spend money on it. Unless you are someone that writes sales copy, unless you are someone that, you write content, you've got to invest in your content marketing. You've got to invest in your systems. You can't be afraid to stretch yourself and not have a free system. Like start where you are, but you have to make sure that you're investing in your systems. Your systems truly, when you think about your product launch and your product development, your systems is like your brick and mortar of your business, right? Because a lot of us, we may have an office or we may not have an office space, or a storefront. But if you don't, your systems, that's what it is. That's how people are entering your business, and things of that nature. And it's all connected. It's all connected. So you should spend your money on your systems, because your systems, they will replace people, and they will also allow you to make more money in your business through your product development and launches. And then you definitely want to focus on the way that you're releasing products, and this is different for everyone. Like some people, it just depends on your brand. It depends on the relationship that you have. It depends on your email list. It depends on a whole lot of stuff. But I'll say this, across the board, you really want to make sure that you that you take pride and that you're really happy with the product that you're putting out, right? Because you went through the cycle. And then you want to make sure that it's something that your customers will want to show off. Knowing who your customers are, knowing what they like, this should be a no-brainer, right? Because what happens is momentum feeds momentum. If individuals are reviewing and sharing and it's growing, more people are going to talk about it, right? And we all know the number one form of marketing is word of mouth, right? So, social proof is everything. So more individuals are going to talk about it, and then it's going to be less work that you have to do. All right. And then making sure that, you focus on, I talked about a lot of the product development 101, but making sure that you really focus on that first and second stage of the product cycle that we talked about, that you really iron out who it's for, and then you really focus on the business of your product. Like how, what's the life cycle of one client? How much is one client worth for this product launch? For example, if you're launching the skincare serum and your serum is, I don't know, $35, and you're telling people that it lasts for 6 months, you know what I'm saying? Then that means your product launch is what? $70, right? Per person, per year on average, right? So you have to kind of think about those things, because that's directly in alignment with the amount of money that you're saying you want to make. So for example, if you say, I want to have a $5,000 launch, and you're selling pins, and each pin is 70 cents, and a pin lasts a lot of people a long time, you gotta sell a lot of pins, right? Unless you're selling wholesale or large bulk or whatever the case is. So you have to really make sure, again, that your product development, your product launch, that it is in alignment with what it is that you want on the end, and that it makes sense. You may have to say, if you're able to sell that serum on auto ship or whatever the case may be, or maybe you want to make the bottle smaller, like whatever that may be, but you have to find ways to balance it, to extend that client life cycle, but also to make sure, that you're able to put out a product or a service that is cost effective. Nobody's going to buy a pin for $100. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure that your price is right. But you also have to make sure that it makes sense, in the market, and that it's going to allow you from a business perspective to create the sustainability that you desire. Very important. And that's why planning is everything. All right. So that's kind of the product development 101 part. And then again, I already talked about staying on brand and making sure that, you're very specific about what you're doing. It's not that you can't be creative or show your personality, but keep your main thing, right? And then developing a product development budget. this is more so kind of from a marketing perspective, but just making sure that you have your spreadsheet. Just use a spreadsheet. It's the easiest thing, I think. Or write it on a tablet. I don't care what you do. Just make sure you have a budget of, what you're spending your marketing dollars on. So for example, here's a great example. If you have your skincare serum and you're like, okay, I want to, launch in 3 months. Well, you may say, I want to spend $200 on Facebook ads. I'm going to spend $100 on Instagram ads. I'm going to spend $200, you know what I mean? But you want to like say that, and then you want to allocate those funds in that way. But sometimes when you don't start off with a budget, you either don't spend any money to market, and then you wonder why only 2 people buy your product or whatever, or you overspend and it's not effective. So, you have to be able to monitor it or have someone else to do it. But this is really where your a lot of your budget should be, is how can I get the most impact and create the most buzz, spend the less, but make sure that it's effective in what I'm doing. So that's really the fun part, I think, about product development and product launching. So when you're thinking about that, though, there's a lot of creative ways that you can do this. I believe that suspense, and then you have the credibility already. I'm sure everyone on here does. And then go on to market, right? But building that suspense, and Beyonce's Lemonade album did exactly this, right? She kind of dropped that teaser showing her with her braids and her head down. It's like, what is that? Showing all this stuff. And then she just dropped it, So, and then her credibility, obviously, and she just took it to market and it just went insane, right? But, we can create our own versions of this, standing out, doing a lot of the other stuff that we just talked about earlier in the presentation as well. And then having a retention plan. What does it really look like to retain your client? What happens again after they purchase? How are you nurturing them? Are you always just asking them to buy the next thing or to upgrade this or whatever, right? So having that post-nurture and that retention plan is going to be very important, and you really can do that through your content. And then again, we already talked about your case studies or having testimonials. All that stuff is very important. Having affiliates is also great as well. You should at least have 3 affiliates at all times that you work with, at least 3. And I mean 3 that are active affiliates. A lot of people, I have an affiliate program. How many people are actually like true affiliates, referring and and doing things in for you, like true affiliates, right? So that's also important. You at least want to have 3.
Can you expound on the affiliates? What is that?
Yes. Yep. So your affiliates are, there's 2 types of individuals that you want to think about, and I think it'll be good for you too. Your affiliates are individuals that you work with to promote your products and or your services, right? So like you can have an affiliate that they may not be, their brand may be different from your brand, right? So like it may not be somebody that sells merchandise or makes t-shirts or something like that, but it could be someone that focuses solely on having tutus or whatever. But then people that come to their site, they're always looking for cute shirts to go with them. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, I will refer you to, to Chris because she has amazing t-shirts. So affiliates are individuals that their brand, it's in alignment with yours, but they're not necessarily doing exactly what you're doing, and you guys can refer to each other. Now, when you think about your affiliate programs, I'll tell you something that is important. Obviously, relationships, doing business with people that you know and that you trust, but also having a nice affiliate agreement. So for example, let's say that I go and I refer, people to you for shirts, whatever, because wholesale orders of them, whatever. Like you need to be very clear on what I get as a result of that. And all that is outlined inside of the affiliate agreement. All of that is outlined. Okay, you refer so many individuals, I'll give you free product. I'll give you money, this amount for every 50 shirts that are ordered, whatever. But what happens is when you don't have those clear agreements, it's like it blurs the line, and that's how relationships get, damaged or whatever. So just make sure whoever you have affiliate agreements with, that you is professional, and you like, listen, this is what it is. You both agree, you sign, and it's just no question. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Like a contract.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of times, you'll just be on the phone with someone, you know how it is. Like, oh, okay, I'll refer some people to you. Well, okay, would you like to be an affiliate? And make it a formal thing. And I find that when you make it a formal thing, that individuals, they are more inclined to refer to you more, because then it's like, before it may have been like, oh, okay, well, I'll give you 5% off your next order or whatever. But when you have it written, and then you have all of the different perks, which don't always have to be you paying them, but could be other things, it just makes them more inclined to refer, and then you refer to them as well. So it's a really great thing, and the more affiliates that you get that are active, the quicker you can grow your business. Yeah. So So choosing the right channels are also important. I don't have to stay on this. I know we're almost out of time too long, but I'll just say this. It's important to make sure that you know where your ideal clients are, because everyone isn't on one social media platform, right? So like, if you know that your client is between this age and that age, just see, like, are those individuals on this XYZ social media platform that I'm spending all my time on? And if you don't know, I'll say start with Facebook, because Facebook is one of the most broad platforms that you can use. So if you don't know, if you're in doubt, start with Facebook and you'll be okay. But outside of that, it starts getting more specific. Like, everyone isn't on Snapchat. Everyone isn't on even Instagram, things of that nature. So just know where your ideal client is as well. And then organic versus non-organic traffic. All that really means is, where is your traffic coming from? This is true for social media, for your website, for all that stuff. But organic traffic is people that are coming to your sites without you paying for it. So you're not buying an ad. You're not boosting a post. It's just people organically coming to your various outlets, your website, etc. Non-organic traffic is basically traffic where you're paying for it. You're saying, hey, I'm going to spend $100 and I'm going to target individuals in Houston, in a specific neighborhood, because that's where I'm going to open my boutique on the 15th. Like, that's non-organic paid traffic, right? And you can do the same thing for your Facebook page, the same thing for your Instagram, etc. We already talked about planning your follow-up, but your sales team, this is important. Your sales team is important because individuals that want to scale their business, especially if you're a coach, sales teams are everything. And this is something I've actually started to implement in my business, where it's like you have a team that does your sales calls and things of that nature, because you're only one person, right? And so if the majority of your business is through consultations, but you're the only one doing consultations, then you can only do so many. So having a sales team for that, or for your products and your services, is going to be really important for you as you scale your business. So initially, I would say don't worry about it. You probably got it in the bag, but once you progress and you want to take your business to the next level, then you definitely would want to think about a sales team with product development or product launching. So get ready to BAM, right? And this is our final slide. And basically what this is talking about is what we talked about. So defining your products, making sure that you are focusing on your market, just to reiterate, that you focus on pre-launch and that you're also focusing on launch. But I wanted to put these on here because throughout everything that I said, because this is a lot of content, throughout everything that I said, I want you guys to get these 4 different notions. I want you to make sure that you really take time to define your product. And I mean, go through the whole avatar thing with your product. You know, look at how much does your product cost? How much does it cost for you to make it? You know, how much does it cost for you to provide that service? Because that's how you're going to determine what your pricing is, and making sure that you feel really, really good about your price for your product and your service, and that you go and you test it to your target market, and you've done all that research. You spent time looking at, you know, who you're marketing to, or looking at even new people that you want to get in front of. Like, you may want to say, hey, I don't want to market to people that look like me or sound like me or talk like me. I want to go and I want to market to people over here. Well, you may need to do some research on some different ways to do that. But giving yourself time to set that up and to do that is very important. And then going over to the pre-launch to really make sure that you understand before you launch it, you've done your beta testing, that you know what the product does when individuals are using it, or what people feel like as they are getting your services and things of that nature. So pre-launch is very, very important. And then, of course, launch. You know, do you have your budget? Have you sat down and written out what are you spending on your launch strategies? Do you have the affiliates in place? Have you written the press release? You know, how can you create some organic and non-organic traffic based, around your launch and things of that nature? So it's really tying everything together. And then the last point, which is not on this slide, is your post-launch that we spend a lot of time on, right? Making sure that your content is tight, making sure it's tight, making sure that your sales funnel and your systems are tight in that phase, so that you don't leave money on the table, and that you don't hinder yourself, I will say, from making the most impact and money from your launch. So that is the end of the presentation. Do I have any additional questions?
Great job, Ms. Philisha, as always, the queen of content, no doubt. Chris, do you have any questions?
I don't. That was good.
Chris, the lady that you texted me about last week, I think we were talking about a contract or something. She could potentially be an affiliate. You need to make sure that the person that's selling shirts in another state or something, I can't remember what it was, but she's buying things. But if she's just an outright buyer, then you got that covered. But you might have people that would sell your shirts, like at their church or their event or something, and then you get you pay them a fee for that. So they're buying the shirt, so it's just something to think about, because you can only be in one place.
Right.
But when you have affiliates, that's a benefit, that you have multiple people, basically other ambassadors in other places for you, also helping to promote your business.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, very good, ladies. Thank you so much for joining. I will get the recording saved and downloaded, and get that uploaded to the Incubator. What's today? Tuesday? By Friday for sure, for that. Ms. Philisha, you enjoy